Merci. Nous reprenons le dernier débat avant notre interruption de la mi-journée. Et donc, le sujet est Sustainable Air Force. J'ai le plaisir d'accueillir l'Air Marshal de la Royal Air Force, Andrew McTurner, et le général Vincent Breton de l'Armée de l'air et de l'espace. Le Sustainable Air Force, c'est un sujet d'actualité. Les armées de l'air n'échappent pas à cette tendance mondiale de prendre en considération le problème de l'environnement. Saving the planet while defending the nation is not only possible, but is on the way. The DNA of the Air Force is to adapt fast, assimilate new technology, and innovate with a fast pace. In Air Force, as French and British, there's a strong link between army and nation, so reducing carbon footprints, becoming more sustainable, is a matter of responsibility, citizenship, and is in the heart of their duty. I make myself clear. Actually, in the Air Force, if you don't do that, you get left behind, and if you get left behind, you get shot on the battlefield. So it's really important that innovation in the Air Force is not about a clever bomb or cyber weapon that can disrupt you before you think. It's actually also about the globe, the climate, the atmosphere. So, neutral carbon Air Force. The Royal Air Force is on the way since a long time. How?
Well, I mean, the very first thing is thank you very much for this amazing opportunity to come to the Paris Air Forum, the 8th, I think, and the first time that the Royal Air Force has been here. So it's great to come here and exchange ideas with the world's leading aviation industrialists and commentators. I mean, I think the first point is that a movement towards net zero is absolutely critical. I mean, the science of climate change is, I think, now undisputed. We know in the United Kingdom that of government, the Ministry of Defence is, one of the most significant contributors, and in defence, the Air Force is 42%, so it's 1.8 million tons of carbon per annum. It's a really big number. So we can't avoid it, and we must take responsibility for it, and we must do something about it. So we published a strategy recently to drive the Royal Air Force to net zero by 2040, and I think this is through three general mechanisms. Firstly, by changing the amount of hydrocarbon fuels that we burn with our aeroplanes, and that's through a series of shifting to uncrewed combat platforms, drones, shifting towards space, moving to digital and data and cyber forms of warfare, changing the fuels we use in our planes and shifting to synthetic fuels, locally generated fuels, and buying electric aircraft fleets, which we'll have one in service before this end of this Parliament, we think. That's the first strand. The second strand is we must make our bases work for us. We've got, as I know the French Armed Forces have, a huge number of acres that can be made over towards generating electricity for ourselves, but also for the nation. And this will give us resilience. This is through photovoltaics, anaerobic digestion, ground source heat pumps, hydro, wind, all sorts of techniques. But we know that if you simply covered our roofs of our hangars with photovoltaic cells, that more than powers a base, and suddenly our estate becomes net positive. So in a way, we're already trading against the net offset that we need to find. It's a combination of sorting aircraft, sorting the estate, and then the third strand is making this business as usual, making it a normal consideration for everybody every day. And I think that's the journey that we need to get on. It's really vital, and I think 2040 is a reasonable date to have achieved this by, but we'd go faster if the technology arrived quicker.
Thank you, Marshal. Vincent Breton, so we heard what the Air Marshal Turner said about the Royal Air Force. Is the French Army in the same mood, and what about the French Air Force?
Yes, we share more or less the same ideas. as the British Armed Forces. In the French Armed Forces and in the French Air Force, there has been in the past years a truly and rising awareness of the need for sustainable development. This is an uptrend, but it's not a new trend. I don't know if you remember, I mean, in 2015, General Mercier, Denis Mercier, when he was Chief of the Air Force, launched the Smart Base initiative. And one of the scope of the Smart Base was actually to reduce our environmental footprint. So what is at stake for us? Indeed, I see 3 points. First, sustainable development is a high expectation for our citizens and for the people we want to recruit as well. So we must accompany this high expectation. Secondly, we perfectly know that we are going to be, us, the French Armed Forces, we are going to be impacted by the climate change. So we must also take part in the struggle against the problem. Third point is we are also big energy consumer. So we face a reputational risk, according to me, if we don't do anything. So we have launched a series of initiatives to tackle the problem. First, we have decided to take as a reference the 17 Sustainable Development Goals which have been adopted by the United Nations. So basically, these goals cover a very wide range of changes, such as climate change, energy, biodiversity, but also hunger, poverty, inequalities. And so we pretend to be able to carry out, in the French Armed Forces, to be able to carry out positive actions for each of these 17 sustainable goals. So I'm going to give you 2 examples regarding to fight against hunger and poverty. We believe that with our operation, especially in Africa, by restoring peace, we help to solve part of the problem. Same thing regarding the goal of equal opportunities. Every year, the French Armed Forces recruit about 25,000 young people, among which a large part doesn't have any qualification. So we train them, we instill them positive value, and we offer them an access to a social ladder. But definitely our main effort is on, I would say, on the environmental goals. So I'm going to pick up some examples of what we do on our basis and with our equipment. With our basis, of course, we do, as the British do, we improve the energetic performance of our buildings. We do solar farms. We have also we aim also a rate of 40% of electrical car in our car fleet. We are also very good for the protection of biodiversity. I can give you some examples if you want. And we have also projects regarding carbon sinks and also an eco-camp. And if we look now at our equipment and especially our aircraft, we do also a lot of things, but without compromising 2 things, which are safety and also our operational capability. So we are increasing flight simulator, knowing that however, a flight simulator cannot completely replace a flight. You cannot reproduce, for example, the load factor with a simulator. We do a lot also now. We do a lot of eco-design. It's one of our priority for our equipment. Eco design. We are very interested, for example, in electric motor glider. We want to purchase. And third point, we have a very ambitious plan regarding the biogas. We want to add in and we want to replace the fossil fuel. So we are increasing the rate of biogas we put in jet fuel. So you see many ongoing initiatives, and especially we have our people are very highly motivated to work on this issue.
Marshal Turner, what do you think is the greatest single step the Air Force could take to address the net zero challenge?
Yeah, it's a great question, and Vincent said many of the things that we're doing together. So I think two things really interesting. I think the biggest single step that we can take together is to demonstrate leadership across the aviation community, military, general, commercial, civil, to move our fuel off hydrocarbon towards synthetics and other more naturally generated mechanisms. If we can do this, if we can start the momentum to shift in this direction, then it will make a tremendous difference. The aviation sector is a significant proportion of the carbon, and so this is where forums like the Paris Air Forum and others can begin to change the dialogue, the importance and the prioritization of this policy agenda.